Good afternoon, our wonderful Israel Brief community, wherever you are in the world. And if you are on vacation and you're watching, I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful time with your families, taking a well-deserved break. If you are here for the first time, welcome to it. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief, where we take a look at the top stories making headlines in Israel that you are probably not going to see in your mainstream media. Let's get that right. And we do it every Monday to Thursday in conjunction with these guys, Lay of the Land. It is the week that we will celebrate Christmas and Hanukkah. In fact, our audience question is Christmas related. And it's up to you guys. If you guys want to break from the Israel Brief until next year, I'm happy to do that. If you want to continue to receive your headlines, I'm happy to do that as well. It is still pretty much a working time here in Israel. So let's get into the top stories. It is day 444 since the 7th of October 2023. A reminder, we still have 100 hostages being held captive by Hamas and other terrorists in the Gaza Strip. So let's start with our top story. And on the early hours of Saturday morning, we had a very, very rude awakening, including where I am in Tel Aviv at about 3 o'clock in the morning, with sirens sounding, signaling an impending missile attack coming from the Houthis, an Iranian-backed proxy in Yemen. Now, what is frightening about this particular missile is that it somehow was not intercepted. So the IDF are investigating why it was not intercepted. And what can only be described as a miracle, it landed in a playground in Jaffa, a very, very densely populated part of Tel Aviv. And thank goodness nobody was killed from it. If it happened a few hours later or hit a building, it would be untold catastrophe. But the shrapnel from the missile did cause damage to some surrounding buildings, including to the bedroom of a 2-year-old little girl who, thank goodness, was with her parents and not in her bed. 16 people were injured, and sadly, a 62-year-old man from Rishon LeZion, not far from where I am, died from cardiac arrest because of the anxiety that he suffered. And I think that this is something that people don't realize. I know for many people, when we talk about rockets and missiles, it seems very abstract that it might only happen in certain parts of the country, and because we have our air defense systems, that everyone's okay now. And I hear from a lot of people, just stay safe, stay safe, stay safe. And I just want to address that. While some Israelis don't mind being told to stay safe, the reality for us here is that we're not safe. As we saw on this past weekend, these missiles can land anywhere. They cause serious damage, and even the shrapnel from the interception causes a lot of damage as well. Last week, I told you about the ballistic missile and that the alarms did not sound in places like Modi'in, where I live, and in Jerusalem, and there was at least 3 accounts of shrapnel in Modi'in causing a lot of damage, as well as very close to the Knesset building in Jerusalem. This is in the public domain. If anybody wants to say to me, why am I mentioning it? It is in the public domain. And following that attack, the IDF, or rather the Israeli Air Force, struck targets in Yemen, but they still pose a threat, not just to us in Israel, but as Prime Minister Netanyahu said, to the entire world, because they are also disrupting our very, very important shipping lanes. There has been a lot of talk and conjecture about where we are lying as far as a hostage deal to see the release of hostages. As we heard from the incoming White House, the Trump administration, we heard from his incoming national security advisor saying you better return these hostages by the time President-elect Trump takes office, or else, he says, anyone who wants to take Americans captive will find themselves with a bullet to the forehead. So this is the third time we're hearing from the incoming administration about threats against those who take hostages, not just Americans, but those who have been taken hostage, which I remind people includes not just Israelis and not just Americans, but people of multiple faiths, Muslims, Christians, Buddhists, Hindus from over 20 different countries. Now, we have had confirmation from Israeli officials that there has been signs of life of the hostages that are still alive. But here are some of the outstanding issues or some of the points that we are hearing about. So the Egyptian channel Al Rad has reported that Hamas has reportedly agreed to include 11 young Israeli men in the first phase of a ceasefire. Now, this is a departure from their previous demands. So this is what we understand is being discussed. The first phase will involve the release of children, elderly captives, 5 female soldiers and 11 young men in exchange for 250 Palestinian prisoners. Marwan Barghouti, one of the most notorious terrorists, will not be included in that. Negotiations are including Israeli military withdrawals from the Netzarim and Philadelphia corridors. Mediators are exploring mechanisms for Egyptians and Qataris to oversee Rafah border operations to facilitate humanitarian aid and civilian movements. Now, what we understand is most of the terms are reportedly settled. However, there are still disagreements over troop positions and various zones. And I would imagine that would include Netzarim and Philadelphia. So this is what we know so far. Nothing is confirmed, and we will keep you updated on the process. On the 8th of October, Hezbollah, Israel's enemy to the north, started to attack Israeli civilian populations, firing thousands of rockets, anti-tank missiles, drones, and forcing the evacuation of civilians from their homes in the north of the country. Now, following the implementation of a ceasefire, which is still holding, the IDF have dispatched engineering squads as well as other soldiers to start to clear waste and to clear ordnance from about 40 communities across the north so that we can have our civilians return safely to their homes. Now, they're working in close cooperation with the local authorities and officials. Some people have returned to their homes, defying the IDF orders to rather just wait until they get the all clear. And of course, there are still many who are still very uncertain whether or not it is entirely safe to return to their homes. And finally, because we love to end with good news as much as possible, Israel's Ministry of Defense announced a 2 billion shekel defense deal with Slovakia. Slovakia will buy the Barak MX defense systems, which makes it the largest defense deal with Slovakia in the history of deals between the two countries. It is a landmark deal. So this particular air defense system can note a variety of threats, including fighter jets, drones, helicopters, and a variety of different missiles. So despite what we see from some countries displaying a hostile attitude towards Israel, it does look like there are still many countries around the world that are willing to benefit from Israeli military technology. So let's get on to our audience question of the day, guys. Also, don't forget about our mention moron of the week. And today's question comes from Anne from Glasgow, who says, how is Christmas celebrated in Israel? Well, Anne, Christmas is very, very festive in Israel. It is rather cold here. And what we see is beautiful festival of coexistence in the northern city of Haifa, where the three faiths are celebrated. There will be celebrations for Christian communities across the country, including in Jerusalem's Old City, where we see a parade by Palestinian Christians through the Old City to the various churches. Christmas trees are given out. There is a Christmas tree in Jerusalem that is lit up, and of course, as you can imagine, this being the birthplace of Jesus, Israel being the birthplace of Jesus, there will be celebrations as much as possible for communities across the country. Now, we have had reports that Mass was held yesterday in the Gaza Strip, in one of the Christian denominations. That was held despite reports to the contrary, and in the West Bank, where Christians are under threat by Islamists, there will still be services held there. So it is a festive time, and this year we have the very, very rare occurrence of Christmas falling on the same day as Hanukkah. So while tomorrow night we'll see Christmas Eve start, on the 25th, on Christmas Day, also begins Hanukkah. So I think it is a beautiful sign of interfaith joy, interfaith light, the sharing of coexistence and cooperation, and strengthening ties between our faiths. So that's it from me for today. Don't forget to check out our website at www.layoftheland.online. We have a bumper edition newsletter going out. If you would like to receive our weekly newsletter, please be in touch with us either via our website or via Facebook. Our Facebook page is at Lottel's site, YouTube channel at The Israel Brief. We are on X at Lay of the Land 5, on Instagram at Rolene_Marks, on LinkedIn at Rolene Marks, and I don't think I've forgotten any. Oh, YouTube at The Israel Brief, right here. Guys, like, share, and subscribe, and take care of yourselves and each other. God bless you all. I will see you again tomorrow. Bye for now.